Hey guys, didn't really expect to be doing any video today, but here we are. Um, quite surprising that this is coming out now, isn't it? Certainly 2 weeks ahead of when we thought it would be. So definitely, and that's something we're going to be talking about is why now? Is there something, um, I hate the way that sounds because not the way I mean it. But is there something that has happened that has caused it to sort of come out ahead of schedule? So I do want to start off with the incident report. We're going to touch on that now. So let's go there. And then we'll sort of deal with the media narrative that's evolving right now, kind of in more detail. Just a quick hi to you guys, James Houghton, Stephanie, Margie Z, Princess Megan Elsa, Ricardo, all the usual suspects. Good to see you here. Helena, Les Brown, thanks a lot for that. We'll see you a bit later. Okay, so can you guys see that? I'll bring it up a little bit bigger. So the incident report basically just says, I was advised a female dissident was located within the cargo space of the vehicle KIELY Rodney was reported to have been driving, right? So that's already telling you something. The vehicle KIELY Rodney was reported to have been driving. I responded to the location to handle the coroner's case. Then it says scene. I arrived on scene at approximately 1900 hours, and FBI agents, FBI crime scene technicians, Placer County Sheriff's Office deputies, California Highway Patrol officers, Truckee Police Department officers, and detectives from the Nevada County Sheriff's Office were all near a tow truck. That's a heck of a lot of people, right, dealing with this. You can't sort of argue that there's a lack of expertise. The other thing that's quite interesting to note is that the I guess the detective that arrived at around 7 o'clock at night. Actually, I'm not sure if this is this the detective or the coroner. I don't have the full report, so I'm just going based on this. But I would imagine it could be the coroner. The coroner does tend to arrive fairly late. I just want to check sunset on August 21st, right? I think it was, yeah, in California was 7:30. So he arrived about half an hour before sunset, right? So I'm just checking my email, just seeing if there's anything that's come in. So far, nothing. Okay. Right. So let's bring it up a little bit bigger. So it says, I spoke to Detective Sonia, who advised me that law enforcement divers had hooked the tow truck's winch to a vehicle under the water and were assisting with recovering the vehicle. I waited until the vehicle was removed from the water and I was given permission to begin my investigation, right? So, as far as I know, that's the first time we've actually heard a detective's name actually being mentioned. It's the first time I've seen it. Detective Sonia. He seemed to be sort of, I guess, in charge, right? Mel Stiller, good to see you. So then it refers to body position. There was a white female dissident located in the rear cargo compartment of the silver 2013 Honda CRV, and then obviously the license plate. The right leg of the dissident was against the pillar of the back seat and resting near the headrest. The remainder of the dissident was behind the seats and not visible from outside the vehicle. So what that's already telling you is, remember we've been told that KIELY was in the cargo compartment. She was sort of in the trunk, almost like she was strapped in and she was kind of you know, like inside the trunk. Well, it says here that her right leg was, I guess, almost over the seat. So that seems to suggest someone who floated there, not someone who was strapped in. Do you guys agree with that? FBI agents and technicians donned Tyvek suits and protective gear and entered into the vehicle. The body was removed under my supervision by FBI. I'm not surprised, Marlene. Someone said there's an overwhelming refusal to accept the accident finding. Do you know why that is? It's because when a channel comes along with, I think it's 2.7 million now, that creates a heck of a lot of momentum, and that sort of feeds on itself. Also, they've dictated the narrative. So when you dictate the narrative, it's quite hard to undictate it. And of course, when you don't hear from AWP, you don't hear them saying, oh, this is the situation. In fact, you actually heard them saying, um, who's going to believe law enforcement, right? Well, then the ball keeps rolling, doesn't it? So it's not really that surprising. Dissident means, yeah, sorry, it's not dissident. Sorry, I should be saying decedent, sorry. It does mean deceased person. Sorry, I'm not really pronouncing it right. Stephanie says, I hope they address the way they handled this case. Well, it looks like we've got a. Um, so, Mark, let me just read what you said there. You can't argue that there was a lack of expertise. I said you couldn't argue that there was a lack of personnel there, but I see where you're coming from. So out you go. Okay. Dylan Taylor, I think that is basically the going to be the theme here. Anyway, mods, just beware of what is being said here. You know what I mean? Just look at what's being said. Okay, so we're going to look at a couple of headlines and other statements. So these are a couple of the headlines that have just come out. This is from what I've always thought is a pretty good source, the Reno Gazette Journal. This came out really just a couple of minutes ago. Death of truckie, 16-year-old ruled accidental drowning, right? And I just want to refer to this text here. It says, in the report, Nevada County Sheriff's investigator wrote, I have recently reviewed the pathologist's final report of autopsy, which listed the cause of death in this case as drowning. There were no other significant contributing conditions listed. I conferred with Detective Sonia, and he told me there was no indication of foul play regarding the criminal investigation. So the manner of death is determined to be accidental. Now, my question is, what were they expecting? So what were we expecting to hear? Were you expecting to hear that there was a bullet wound or blunt force trauma or a knife wound or SA? What were you actually expecting to hear in the autopsy? Let me put this in another way. If you believed in the foul play theory, what would you have wanted to hear? What would have been sort of magic, or the words that would have been music to your ears, I guess, right? What would have been like, oh, that is what I thought all along? What would the answer be? What is it? What's the answer? So, Dylan, I don't know if you can answer the question. What sort of autopsy result would you hear that you would say, oh, yes, yes, that does make sense. I do believe it. What would you say? Okay, just a note that we don't really like all caps in chat. So if that's tough for you, just bear that in mind. Ricardo says a drug analysis and needle marks. Needle marks, okay. So that would have satisfied you. Okay. So let's go to a couple of other headlines. We're just going to go quickly through it, and then we'll deal with my sort of assessments. Interesting that they brought up this particular image here. Kylie Rodney's cause of death revealed after diver claimed her passing was suspicious. A little bit of a I don't want to say snub, but certainly trying to stir something up there, I think, from the Sun. And it is relevant. It definitely is relevant. Then from the New York Post, Kylie Rodney's death ruled an accident, according to the coroner. And the part I want to highlight is right at the end. So they talk about she was drinking, according to fellow partygoers. But the part right at the end I want to just highlight is where they say the following. Officials have not disclosed how she ended up in the water. So that's still not been revealed, right? Okay, so let's go on to CBS News. It's really just a headline. Kylie Rodney's death ruled accidental by coroner's office, no sign of foul play. Fairly open and shut, fairly simple from that news agency. Another one, Kylie Rodney's death ruled accidental, just short and sweet. Is this all fake news? Is this fake news and AWP is the actual trustworthy source? Anyway, it says the 16-year-old from Truckee went missing. A body was found in Prospect Creek Reservoir in Truckee. Drowned in SUV. No other factors in her death. No evidence of foul play. Okay. And then I think I've got one more headline. This one's from TMZ. Also, this one, RAPS, no foul play, accidental drowning. I actually said that the day that the vehicle was found, I said, no foul play, no red flags. It just seemed kind of obvious to me. That was just my assessment. Drowning is definitely a horrible death. It definitely is. Phil, what do you mean today is a big nothingness? What's that about? Let's just be clear what you're talking about there. I think I'm just gonna kick you out anyway. Okay, so let's deal with. I've kind of prepared a script. I'm just going to go through it, and then I also want to tell you guys a little bit about something that I think is a narrative that's been missing from this case, which is the cell phone narrative. What happened to Kylie is also what happened to her cell phone. It's quite an interesting way of looking at it. I'm just trying to find my information. It's just been so much news today. So the same thing that happened to Kylie's phone happened to Kylie, right? We're going to go through that in a second. Okay. Right. Let's have a look at some of your comments. James says another channel is going through the detailed autopsy with a fine-tooth comb, presence of nicotine, ethanol. Okay. Nicotine, that's quite interesting. Says difficult amounts as body will produce some also. Yeah, the body does produce ethanol, but in a rate that is predictable. Yeah, I must say it's very frustrating that there is a particular channel that's been telling the foul play narrative all along, and yeah, I'm trying to get hold of that information. I just haven't been able to. I've been able to get hold of this little piece of it. It is really frustrating that you've got that channel basically doing the analysis, given what has taken place. It's definitely frustrating. Let's just see if, Okay, yeah. So I have asked some of my patrons to try and find something. I've looked myself, haven't been able to find it. I think one's got to go and make an official request. I'm not that fast, I guess. I'm not that quick on the draw. Anyway, so let's just go through what I have got here. So the coroner's division of the Nevada County Sheriff's Office has ruled the death of Kylie Mae Rodney as accidental. This ruling is based on the pathologist's finding that her death was the result of drowning and that there was no other information to suggest she was the victim of foul play. Now, what's interesting with that is um, it's suggesting that nothing in the toxicology would seem to indicate that there's foul play, right? You would think that if there was a lot of alcohol, that could suggest foul play. You would think that if there was um, a particular drug in a system, that could suggest there was foul play. Um, okay. So having a look at the poll, just see where we are with that. So I'm about 90 minutes past my bedtime, so I'm a little bit fuzzy. I really was in bed um, I really actually didn't intend doing a video today. Um, so the poll so far, what went wrong in this case? So far, 71% say too little critical thinking. So far, so good. Let's see how that changes. Okay, so I find it very interesting that Nevada County Sheriff's Office released this the way that it did, when it did, just one day after we found Yolisa Fuentes also died in a car accident. Do you guys think that that is a coincidence? Do you think they were always going to release it today, or the do you think the authorities were influenced by the way the Yulisa Fuentes case was sort of handled, the way it was announced, what came out of that? Do you think that do you think that had an impact? Um, Jeffrey says Nick Fuzzy means I can almost keep up. Hope so. Yeah, good point, Diana. That's also a good point, Mad Mechanic. Sorry, Mad Mechanic. Christine says, I don't believe it was an accident. Okay. So all those news agencies are fake news. Thanks a lot, Paul. Cool. Okay, so let's continue. So I think it's just an interesting question. Were they always going to release it now? They did say November 1st. You do get a feeling that what happened with Yulisa Fuentes, it feels like that kind of made them, that was a real, that wasn't a social media event the way this case has been. That was a real world, real life event that was intertextual. And you sort of get the feeling that went onto their radar and they thought, maybe we should finalize this case, right? Doesn't that feel like that? So, so that's the first thing. It feels like the Fuentes case influenced the timing of this one. Second, and I'm basing this on not reading the full report. Did you notice they haven't released anything regarding toxicology? Now say that based on what's in the media. So I've read what the media say, and the media haven't referred to toxicology anyway. But it could be that the media is still trying to catch up. So thanks a lot for that, Sharon. So if some of you have access to that report, please send it through. I have got someone working on it, but I'm still not seeing anything in my inbox. SMK Walensky, see what you can do. Anyway, so as I say, when I sort of started going through this, it didn't seem like there's any toxicology. We have learned that there's some mention of toxicology, but it doesn't seem to be particularly here or there. The toxicology doesn't seem to be, it's hard to know for sure without actually seeing it myself, but it doesn't really seem to be noteworthy. It's possible that the family have asked for some of this information to be kept private. I actually thought none of it would have been released, but it seems like some of it has been released. I actually thought they might want to stifle toxic speculation that would arise. You know, who gave KIELY alcohol or who gave her this substance? But it seems that they have been actually quite transparent. Anyway, the other thing that I think is interesting is it feels like this is all we're going to get from Ali, doesn't it? I mean, has there been a press conference? It just seems like they released this statement and that's it, right? It sort of feels like we're not going to get anything. Let me just mute this site. Mute site, okay. It feels like we're not going to get any more than this. We're not going to get a reenactment. We're not going to get we're not going to get a sort of description of how the vehicle got there. I mean, there's not even anything like KIELY took a wrong turn, as far as I know, based on what we know. And this is the route she took. There's not even a reference to the fire tower footage, right? Which is kind of feels, it feels like it's incomplete, doesn't it? Yeah, so there's been zero comment about the fire tower footage, neither to confirm or to dispute it. There's not really been any photos that I'm aware of, nothing from the California Highway Patrol. And as I say, the New York Post seems to sum this all up quite succinctly. Officials have not disclosed how she ended up in the water. So nothing about the speed she was driving, nothing about whether the phone was found, unless that's in the report that we haven't seen. Has anyone seen a reference to a phone being found? Nancy says, I wonder if they released the toxicology. Well, we know that there's parts of that has been released. Well, what has just happened? The device isn't powerful enough. Okay, guys, I'm going to have to, I think, turn off my other computer. So just give me a second. I'll be back in a moment. Never had that. That was very weird. Close any other resource intensive programs. Okay. Let's close that. Not sure why this is happening. Okay, anyway, I'm back. I guess we're going to have to do this without a background. Kat says she was strapped in the hatch, but they lost that evidence when they flipped her car underwater. So it looks like that's going to be the narrative. Looks like that's going to be the narrative. So she wasn't tied very securely or something like that. A cover-up. Okay. So it's kind of like this thing of what's more likely here, that a senior drank too much and drove into something in the middle of summer, which is statistically very likely, or that this is an elaborate cover-up involving, I guess, law enforcement, the FBI, the media, maybe I'm paid as well. family covering up what for what? What's is there gold or oil resources in Proso? Is that what's been covered up? I mean, what's the payoff to covering it up? Who's financing the cover up? SW Firefly says she wasn't even intoxicated, just an unfortunate accident. I wouldn't be surprised if she was somewhat intoxicated, but there's a very interesting video by Gray Hughes that shows her pausing for 14 seconds at the wrong turn spot, the second wrong turn spot. And I guess she was trying to decide which way to go, and then unfortunately went the wrong way at that point. But that 14 seconds suggests that she was, in a way, you can read it both ways. You can read the 14 seconds as she was so wasted that she needed a long time to decide. On the other hand, the fact that she stopped and she was thinking about it shows that she was kind of compos mentis, right? I tend to believe that she was uh, not totally sober. Stephanie says if she had ligature marks, that would be noted. So no, not strapped. That's a good point. Okay, so let's continue. So now I want to kind of deal with the broader aspect. There's been a strong sense of chaos surrounding this case. You all know what I'm talking about. Remember what Ali said right in the beginning that set the tone. They said somebody knows something, right? That's been repeated by a lot of people. Do you think that that was true? So if you accept for a moment where we are now, do you think it was true that somebody did know something besides KIELY? Do you think that that was a true statement? Do you think that was a helpful statement? And while you guys are thinking about that, I'm going to try and bring back my background. See if I can do it again. Is that going to work? B. Ben says, I believe foul play before AWP. They just helped confirm it. Okay. Do you still believe that? Alina says, alcohol clears the system in 24 hours. Yeah, but not if you die. If you die, alcohol stays in you. And there's I dealt with this in the Chris Watts case. So let me sort of, not to sound condescending, but let me educate you guys a little bit in how alcohol works, right? If you don't drink anything, and you die, your body will produce alcohol, ethanol, right? It's the same kind of thing. So if you haven't had a drink at all and you die, your body will start producing all sorts of gases and so on, but including alcohol, because your body is fermenting, your body is rotting, right? And that will correspond to a certain rate. The amount of alcohol will increase at a predictable rate, right? And you can fine tune that based on temperature and the time that the body's been out there, and also the weight of the body and certain other factors. If you drink alcohol, then that's going to also impact the total amount of ethanol. And one of the ways that you tell the difference between natural alcohol, in other words, fermentation alcohol, post-mortem alcohol, and the alcohol that was drunk at the time is the alcohol found in the vitreous humor, found inside the eyeball, right? Another possibility is the alcohol content in the bladder. That's another possibility. So that, I hope that clears it up for you guys. Okay, so So let me ask you guys again. Somebody knows something. Do you think that that was true? And do you think that that was helpful? Do you think that it was ultimately true that somebody knew something about Kylie? If you also look at the fire tower footage where Kylie's driving and she's not directly behind someone and no one is directly behind her. There are a couple of lights moving and then there's a pause and then there's one light moving on its own. So essentially, Kylie was driving alone in the dark and died, unfortunately, alone, right? You know, even if you say somebody knew something or saw something, even if they did, if they saw her drive in there, that would have been virtually impossible to save her. And there would be no reason not to say, we saw her drive in, we tried to save her, we couldn't, please come and help. There would be no reason not to do that. Someone says, so the fire cam was true. What a question. Stephanie says, no, not true, kind, or helpful. Um, I I don't I don't fault law enforcement for saying that because I think it was a natural assumption to make. It was a natural assumption to assume with 300 people there that someone would know something. So I don't see anything nasty about that or unkind. I think what law enforcement didn't anticipate was social media taking that carrot and running with it as far as they did. Because it turned out that it was possible that nobody saw anything. Bear in mind, someone is driving off. Did you know where they went? Think about Yolisa Fuentes. Did somebody know something about that? Well, the person at the sort of AM, PM, but not really. I mean, you know that she drove off into the night, but you don't know what happened after that. So you can't really say, even in that case, somebody knows something. In the case of someone driving and leaving the road, well, the only person who really knows is the person who was driving. I mean, they take that knowledge with them into the grave. The other thing that I'd be curious to know, as far as I know, it's not in this report, but I could be wrong, is telemetry data. Is there telemetry data in this report? Is there? I'm just going to quickly look at some additional news here, see if anything has come out. It's very, very new news, so just trying to see if something has come out. So far, no, it's not there. Okay, so as I said, I don't think it was ever true to begin with that somebody knows something. And if no one saw Kylie drive the way that she went, and the fire tower seems to confirm this, it shows that no one else was sort of in the area. How could anyone know something? So, so that's the one part to address. Now I'm going to address the elephant in the room, which is social media. Let's have a quick look at the poll. What went wrong in the Rodney case? Too little critical thinking or too much? It's interesting that a third of you say too much critical thinking. In a way, you could say too much. I wouldn't call it critical thinking, but too much speculation, too much suspicion, too much whoa, too much sort of sensation and drama. Too little sober analysis, I think one could say. ITC says, why wouldn't you just drive and follow the others? Well, first of all, she was not just behind them. There was a gap. Also, it's not like you're driving on a tar road, a smooth tar road. You've got to slow down. It's not easy going, and it's quite a rough road. Also, if you're intoxicated, you can't quite drive the same speed maybe somebody else is driving. And then this is the part that I've been trying to show you guys is, and Terry's gone back to that area. Terry went back to that area, got some footage, shows that higher road that curves towards the hill. That road goes down, which means if you a certain distance behind those vehicles, you simply won't see them. It's like literally being behind a hill. You just simply won't see those cars. So, in a setting like that, 1 minute you see lights and the next they're gone. Trees get in the way. The relief of that campground gets in the way as well. So that's one of the reasons. Okay. Jenny Rose says, why was a 16-year-old at a drug and drinking party alone? Well, because she's a senior and because she was homeschooled and because she lived in a pretty isolated area. So why was she there? Because she wanted to be there. Um, she was actually there with a friend, but then the friend left. I'm talking about Mags, and then another friend also left. So she was actually there with some friends, and then they left. And other friends of hers, I guess, could have gone there, but they didn't. In fact, she was going to go to a car show in Reno, and then decided she wasn't going to do that. So, why do teenagers do certain things? Because they want to. That's why. Okay. So, do you guys agree that there was a strong sense for more than 2 months of social media running amok, conducting a series of damaging witch hunts? I've been in true crime for many years, right? Writing a lot of books, and then not so many years on YouTube, but I can safely say I've never seen anything like what you've just experienced. So I've got to say, I learned a couple of lessons through the KIELY Rodney case. I learned how people are prone to exaggerate. I've learned how people are prone to dramatize, over dramatize. I've learned how people are prone to sensationalize. I've also learned just how easy it is to mislead almost everybody. And when there's an incentive, like, wow, here's a big channel. If I associate myself with this channel, I can grow my channel. I can get a lot of views, a lot of subs, a lot of money. All I've got to do is just toe the line with this channel. I've got to be nice to them. I must, what's the word, sort of facilitate and don't criticize them and sort of, all of that kind of thing. And one channel after another did that, and it shaped this entire narrative. There was just one little problem: it wasn't true, it wasn't anchored in evidence, but no one really seemed to care about that. And that aspect shocked me. It shocked me how you can have such a large proportion of people belonging to a mythology, and they're perfectly happy with that. Even if it doesn't make sense, no matter how much you argue, that it doesn't really matter because I'm going in the direction of that narrative. And anything that gets in my way doesn't matter at all. I don't care who you are, I don't care what you're arguing. That's the narrative that I'm with. I found that pretty terrifying. But nevertheless, I've accepted it. I've accepted this is the world we live in now, where if you have a big enough voice saying something, doesn't really matter what you argue. It's not really going to do any good, which is um, it's the opposite of empowering. It's pretty intimidating. It's pretty scary. um, it makes you sort of wonder, what are you supposed to do? Should I carry on working if this is the way the world works? If facts don't matter, if the truth doesn't matter, if all that matters is how big someone is saying something, how popular you are, if that's all that matters. Um, uh, Someone says Kylie was not an accident. Anyone coming to that conclusion is stupid and naive. Okay, so off you go. So mods, will you just look at sort of nastiness in chat? I'm not really gonna, at this point, I'm definitely not gonna be dealing with that stuff. Really. Hey guys, I'm back. That's never really happened before, though the power's gone out. But yeah, I think this is this is the first time I've ever had the thing freeze. I really don't know what that was all about. So I'm just gonna quickly see if I can bring something up while we in this sort of limbo. Toxicology, ethanol, TLC. Was it not TLC? What was it? THC. As for the toxicology, Rodney had both THC and ethanol in a system, though the ethanol could have been a process of decomposition. So, yeah, that definitely is quite interesting. So they looks like they haven't really been able to differentiate the toxicology, the alcohol from the, that is something that they've struggled to know that for sure. One kind of gets a sense that it's possibly inconclusive, but it's difficult to know without actually seeing it, right? Definitely is difficult to know without seeing it. This is the scrap that I have been able to see. Let me bring that up. This is the scrap that I've been able to see. Let me just put it back up there. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that disappearing act, but I see there's still some of you that have stayed on. Kelly says, I'm grateful for channels like yours that value facts and evidence over drama and money. Julie says, there was something very atmospheric about Terry's most recent pictures and coming after the fire cam footage and before this announcement. I still am wanting to do a debrief with Terry. Unfortunately, she's at work right now, but maybe we can do that tomorrow. SW Firefly says a small amount of ethanol. Once he says, hi everyone, so relieved that finally Kylie's accident is confirmed. Hopefully the true crime channels will calm down. Okay. So yeah, let me carry on where I left off. Although, yeah, there was something I really wanted to share with you guys. So I'm gonna go off the script that I was on a moment ago onto a different script, and this is dealing with something that I don't think was really dealt with in much detail, and that is Kylie Rodney's. Um, so yeah, Kylie Rodney's phone, right? So let me ask you guys what you think about this. What do you guys think is the reason Kylie Rodney's phone? How can I put this? Let me put it like this. What would you say happened to Kylie Rodney's phone from the perspective of not Kylie, of an outsider? So if you were law enforcement, how would you describe what happened to Kylie's phone? What would your answer be to that? And you're allowed to use what we know now as a kind of inference, right? So let me ask that again. What I'm trying to do is connect what happened to Kylie's phone to Kylie, right? So let me put this in chat just to make it sort of clear. Okay. So the same thing that happened to Kylie's phone happened to Kylie. So what do you think happened to Kylie's phone? Angela says it went too far underwater. Terry says it was on her person and the property of her family. Ricardo says taken. Andrea says, I think someone had it or threw it away. Kelly Sharp, there's a really good, simple answer. It went into the water. Angela says it drowned. James Houghton says water damaged. But think of it in a very simple way. Kylie drowned. Her phone drowned. What happened to her phone? Her phone drowned. What happened to Kylie? Kylie drowned. Now, if you think about the difference between Kylie and her phone is Kylie is where she is. She's in the vehicle. She can scream, she can call out, but she can't really, and she can flail. She can't really do much beyond that. Whereas her phone still has the ability to ping off towers and to receive messages, all that sort of thing. But it also stops doing that. Why do you think that is? Not only why do you think that happens, but why do you think it happens at that moment? Why do you think it happens at the same time? Right? Why doesn't it happen the next day or earlier or later? Right? That's also a very important thing with foul play. If you say something happened to Kylie, someone did something to Kylie, well, why would you leave her with her phone so she could call authorities? Well, when something happened to Kylie, something happened to her phone. When something happened to her phone, something happened to Kylie, right? The same you can say with your Lisa Fuentes. When something happened to your Lisa, something happened to her phone. When something happened to her phone, something happened to your Lisa. So when the car rolled and so on, one would imagine her phone got smashed or broken or wasn't able to work. Thanks a lot for that, Wanzi. Appreciate it. Kaz Shaw says when you drown, there's a large amount of water in the stomach and lungs, but report says not. Okay. But I really wasn't expecting, wasn't expecting the end of that sentence to go that way. Okay, so semantics matter. Do you know what Ali and the media and others generally said about Kylie's phone not being on? We know it wasn't on, but why wasn't it on? Was it turned off? Was there no service? So we're going to again run through the media narrative, but this time just looking at her phone, right? So let's go to that one first. Can you guys see that? So that is from August 8th. Officials said her phone has been inactive since she was last seen at the party on August 6th. So let's put that in chat. Okay, so that was the first reference really to her phone, that it's inactive, right? Then on August 10th, that's from this this news report. This is from ABC News. You can see it's referring to last conversations. Well, on August 10th, her cell phone went dead and became virtually untraceable shortly after. That was actually a very, I'm going to just close this so I don't get another, not quite sure what's going on with this computer. So this is a really important statement from Angela Musalem. She was the public information officer. She said her cell phone went dead and became virtually untraceable shortly after. But that word virtually is quite interesting. Virtually means not completely, means mostly untraceable, but not completely. It's quite interesting, right? Yeah, Kelly Sharp says, we all know the computer went in the water. I don't understand why some people think there's a difference in the two, the phone and the laptop. One is just a larger computer than the other. That's a good point. But you see these words from Angela Musalem. She says, her cell phone went dead and became virtually untraceable shortly after. In other words, there's this idea that it went dead, but there was still something traceable. What do you think that was? Or wasn't it the ping? Around about the time that it went dead, there was a ping, right? So it was virtually untraceable, but also virtually traceable. Okay. Same actually with your Lisa Fuentes. Okay. So that is a more accurate account. It wasn't simply inactive, it was off. In addition, we know where and when it went off. Now we go to August 11. So that's this article. Let's bring this back. Bring that back like that. Okay. So that's from August 11, and it basically says, no thanks. Basically says, Kylie's phone has been out of service, right? Her phone is out of service. Now, Terry can probably answer this. Is there anywhere in that area, Terry, where you would say you don't have service? So was it out of service because it was in a different area, or was it out of service because it was underwater where it couldn't have service? So, Terry, are you here? Can you address that question? When you were at the campground, was there anywhere where you didn't really get service? I know you said why connecting to the internet was slow, but I think you said you could pick up service anyway. Not charged. Sammy actually said that they charged their phones. That was one of the last things that they actually did. And her mother also said that Kylie had a charger in her car. Sonia says, if it was an accident, why did the friends lie? So you can have an accident and you don't tell the complete truth about something. It doesn't mean you lied because it's foul play. You kind of have that in the Adnan Syed case, where the guy who is the main witness is a drug dealer, or he was a pot dealer, and he was very unreliable. Does that mean that the certain things didn't happen? Anyway, I think you're thinking in a very binary way that if it's this, it's got to be that, but you're allowed to. I'm trying to find where's Terry. Terry says great for calls and texts. Sending larger files take longer, but still go through. So Terry, was there anywhere in the campground that you had no service? So you wouldn't really have a situation where there's no service, right? I mean, it's not that far from town, and there's not really high enough hills to interfere with signal, right? Okay, so anyway, let's continue. So that same day, the authorities said they couldn't rule what happened to Kylie an abduction because only 3 of the 4 criteria had been met. Then we go to the next day, that's this article. Where's Kylie Rodney? Timeline of Truckee Teen's disappearance. Again, they basically said Kylie's phone has been out of service. Now, if you think about those words again, why was her phone out of service? It wasn't because her phone couldn't connect. Wow, is this light still on? Sorry, the power did go out earlier, so let's just turn that light off. So the reason it was out of service wasn't because Kylie had moved into the mountains or was on the move and the signal was being lost. It was out of service because underwater the phone couldn't connect, right? And also, once it was underwater for long enough, the phone would have the electronics would not have worked. It would have basically in the same way that Kylie drowned and there was no electricity in her body anymore, in that sense, the phone would have done the same thing. The phone would not have been able to receive any signals. So the phone is actually a very important clue, like following the life of the phone would have actually given you a good idea of where Kylie was, right? Does that make sense? If you kind of just imagined, why is the phone behaving this way? And why did it behave this way at these times and these locations? Why did the phone move to the water's edge? Well, that's telling you something. You know, also at the time, it's telling you something. So now we go to August the 13th. Law enforcement detail last known pings of Kylie Rodni's cell phone. Then her phone has been out of service since she disappeared. And you can really read that two ways. You can read that as foul play, that someone took her phone, and that does sometimes happen, or you can read that as an accident, because that can also happen, but not necessarily an accident where she just goes off the road, because then your phone could stay on. A situation where your phone gets wet. Okay, I'm just gonna see if any emails have come through. Looks like something may have. Okay. So I've got a little bit of information to share with you. This is some of the information that comes from the autopsy. Thanks a lot for this, SM Kowalinsky, right? So this is from the autopsy. Ethanol, there's the result, 88. Nicotine, I guess that is a presumptive positive. Caffeine as well. And all of this they found in the liver tissue. And then cotinine, and then that is THC. I think that is from something like marijuana, I'm guessing. I don't really know these substances, but ethanol 88, the question is, how much is that? Nicotine, I'm not actually sure. I'm not sure if that THC refers to marijuana. Let's just have a look. THC. Yeah, so the active ingredient in marijuana is tetrahydrocannabinol, THC. Well, my true crime rocket science news hasn't let me down. Yeah, that is it. Yours hasn't let you down either. Yeah, it's in pod. Yours hasn't let you down either, Terry. Well done. So let me have a look at cotinine. I'm not really familiar with that one. Let's just see what that is. It's a product formed after the chemical nicotine enters the body. So it's also a nicotine related uh, product. Ethanol 88. Wonder what that's going to tell you. Yeah, so I had a friend, unfortunately, he committed suicide last year. He was actually also into crime. He'd written books. He actually was a forensic scientist. He actually studied this, for example, the rate of alcohol production, and he could definitely have answered this question. So unfortunately, I can't contact him and ask him because he's not with us anymore. But I suppose that is something that's going to really be a focus: is was this level um, elevated? Was it elevated slightly? Was it elevated mildly? Was it elevated at an extreme level? But I think what you can see here is that there definitely were, it looks like there was alcohol and marijuana, certainly in her system. Could have been other things as well. For example, there could be um, fentanyl, and I think that um, that has a very short half-life. So if there was fentanyl, I don't know if you would really find it. I don't know whether they tested her hair. You would imagine that they did. But again, you sort of come back to the same thing. If she drank a beer, um, or if somebody gave her a beer, does it really come down to the same thing, right? But basically, you're looking at a mixture of alcohol and marijuana, possibly or probably. And, can that interfere with perception? And how does it interfere with perception? The mixture of those, alcohol and marijuana. What happens when they mix? So it says here, don't drive after using marijuana or drinking alcohol. That's like really, really prominent here. So let me just bring up another thing. Can you guys see that? Let's just bring it up. Just says here, there you can see, don't drive after mixing marijuana or drinking. Oh, it's after using or drinking. It's not mixing. Combining them may intensify the adverse effects and increase the risk of long-term health. It may heighten the depressive effects on your brain. People may combine alcohol and marijuana in an attempt to enhance the effects of both. Here it says it is possible to mix the two safely in moderation. Thanks for that hashtag Team Peachtree. There we go. Yeah, so it is possible to mix them in moderation, but it's also possible to mix them not in moderation, right? Let's just have a quick look at this. What happens when you mix alcohol and weed? What happens when they team up? There are a lot of variables to consider. Which one you use first matters. If you aren't careful, the duo can lead to the case of spins or a green out, two reactions that can turn a fun night into a nauseated night in. What happens if you drink alcohol before using weed? Drinking intensifies weed's effects. There it is. Delta 9 THC. Delta 9 THC. This generally results in a stronger high. So you can have dizziness, and that's certainly not going to help you with driving, right? And then, so that's alcohol before weed. Do they talk about weed before drinking? So they say weed before drinking. There isn't much about the opposite approach, not much studies about that. Major risks, decreased cognitive function, impaired driving. That's like mentioned right there. it affects your driving. In 2003, 80 people participated. In each session, participants consumed a different combination of placebo. The big takeaway, don't drive after using marijuana or drinking alcohol, period. It says here, adding alcohol to a low dose of THC impaired driving simulator scores by 21%. That's quite a lot. Adding alcohol to a high dose THC impaired driving by 17%. It's hard to know exactly what that means, but there you go. Signs of a green out, lightheadedness, paranoia. Anyway, there you go. So I think just a very simple way of looking at it is drinking and driving is bad enough. Drinking and driving and being high is going to make everything more sort of risky. Think about when you're high, you happy, you're not um, necessarily that careful, you're not necessarily that serious. And so you don't maybe worry about certain possibilities as much as you otherwise would. Am I going this way or that way? Oh, I'll just go this way. We'll see what happens. Um, I did Google cotinine. I think, well, let me just do it again. It's a product formed after the chemical nicotine enters the body. So it's related to I guess, marijuana, um, unless you're smoking something else. So let's just see, do I have anything else? Okay, so I've got a little bit more for you. Thanks a lot, Isimko Valinsky. Ethanol, so we've gone through that, and then it says, other than the above findings, examination did not reveal any positive findings of toxicological significance by procedures outlined in the accompanying analysis summary. So there you go. There you go. Okay, so we're going to return to what you were talking about regarding the phone. Unfortunately, we've sort of broken that rhythm, but if you think about it, there was service to the Posse campground. It's fine. Uh, that's not speculation. Terry has confirmed that. So that cannot be a factor unless, of course, the victim and the vehicle and the phone are underwater. Then it would be out of service. That's, I must say, something that I still want to know is there telemetry data? And one wonders, wouldn't water also have an impact on that? Okay, so here's another article. Last cell phone ping places KIELY Rodney at Lake Edge. It just makes you wonder, why on earth did they not just start searching from that last ping point? Go to the lake edge and search there. Maybe they went and they looked and they didn't see anything, and then they just didn't look any further. Put the ping on a map and show everyone where the map is, show the media accurately. And that's not the ping point. That right there is not the ping point. Okay. Now we go to, okay, so on August 15th, it says it would be odd for her daughter to let her phone go dead, adding that she always kept a charger in her car. So this is a behavioral comment that Lindsay made, just saying that KIELY, and I think a lot of teenagers are like this. I think most of us are like this. It's odd for you to just let your phone die, right? I think most of us, when your phone is like at 1% or 2% or low, that you charge it. It's kind of a schlep to allow your phone to die, and then you charge it, but you've also got to reboot it again. You can kind of use your phone even when it's charging. You can't use it when it's off and charging, kind of thing. But it's just interesting that her mother says it would be odd for her to let her phone go dead, but her phone did die. The thing is, she didn't let her phone die, right? So let's just go back to that. Um, okay, so hang on. So we're going to go now to uh, the 22nd. So this is the day that she was found, right? That's from People. After the party, Rodney disappeared and her phone was turned off. Investigators were unable to track her vehicle down. This is from the 22nd. And this is quite an interesting statement from People. After the party, Rodney disappeared and her phone was turned off. Do you think that that's true? That's why I say semantics matter. Do you think it's true that her phone was turned off? So I don't know about you, but I don't think it's accurate to say her phone was turned off. It wasn't on. It was off, but that's different to saying it was turned off. Does that make sense? Also, we know it had been inactive for a long time. That's precisely what would happen if she drove into the water with her phone went dead, right? If she drove into the water with her phone would have gone dead. So the manner of the phone going silent is also important to be clear and specific about, like a kind of cell phone autopsy. It's quite weird. I was writing about this the day that this came out. Anyway, the same thing actually happened with Kylie's laptop and her phone. So the same thing that happened with Kylie's laptop and her phone happened to Kylie. What happens when electronics drown? What happens when a person's electronics, their nervous system, their brains are submerged in water for long enough? It doesn't turn off. It's not inactive. It's not out of service. It has died, right? Woobles, thanks for joining us. Thanks a lot. Okay. Um, let's see if there's anything else here. Doesn't look like it. Okay. I'm just quickly checking some additional news sources. Can you guys see this? Let me do that. So this is from Fox News. Normally they're a bit quicker to respond. Kylie Rodney update. California coroner rules out foul play. And we know this writer, Michael Ruiz. Authorities initially treated her disappearance as a possible abduction. Okay, I'm not going to go through all that again. So this is from San Francisco Chronicle. I'm not a subscriber, so I don't know if we're going to be able to see it for very long, but there it is. Then there's this from People. I wonder whether this is going to open something up. No. Okay, then there's this one from KTLA. Coroner says death of Northern California teen was an accident. So that's it. Okay. Do you guys want me to come back to talking about social media? Let's have a look at some of your comments. Marlene says, so what are you saying is that so what what you are saying is that while the true crime community has not been careful about what they said, neither is the MSM or even official sources. Well, in terms of the phone narrative, I'm just saying, if you think about the semantics, um, it's not true that it went out of service. It's not true that she turned her phone off. She never turned her phone off. Um, it's not true that, well, I think it is true to say that her phone died. I'm just saying it's important to be accurate about that stuff. You know, you've got to be careful saying that someone is intentionally trying to mislead you and someone simply makes an obvious inference and then other people make the same obvious inference, but it's incorrect. That's easy to do, and semantics often take you to that sort of thing. So Rose says, if law enforcement had not botched this, I'd feel better about the accident part. What I want to sort of um, bring up here is a bit of perspective. As much as we care about Kylie, as much as she had her whole life ahead of her, um, her accident was one of several that weekend. That one weekend, Anne Hesh died. 6 people died in a horrible inferno in the Windsor Hills in LA. Yolissa Fuentes died, and there wasn't much attention paid to that. The Yuba couple died, and there wasn't too much attention paid to that. Um, and the point I'm trying to make is, I think something like 41,000 people die a year in car accidents in America. We've really just paid attention to one now. And if you'd been told that, if you'd been told from the beginning, and that narrative had been maintained that this is probably a car accident, I don't know if anyone would have really paid that much attention. So on the one hand, I think it's important that we did pay attention, and I've tried to draw. I mean, there are only 155 people watching now. The other channels that have 4,000 people watching and looking for an abductor. But what you should be looking at is the trend in accidents, and I dealt with that in the Yolissa Fuentes case, that the trend in accidents has been increasing, even though cars are becoming a lot safer, right? And also the trend is that more people are dying from not drunk driving, but driving while high, drug driving, right? So even though vehicles have become a lot safer, car accidents have been on the rise, especially 2021 and 2022. And we, as I say, we know in just the weekend that Kylie died, there were quite a few incidents that were like high profile. Anne Hesh, the Windsor Hills crash, Yolissa Fuentes. That was all over one weekend. August is the busiest month for these fatalities, right? That's the conversation that was needed, and yet we didn't really have that conversation, right? We didn't really have that conversation, and it's an important conversation to have. Atharia says, don't try to find other guilty people now. It's too late for blaming. Use this tragedy as a lesson. Okay, not quite sure where you're coming from with that. Okay, so here is a little bit more from the coroner's report. Thanks for this, SM Kowalinsky. Let's just bring that up. Can you guys see this? Let's just bring it up. It says classification accident, time 8:20, and then it says KIELY Rodnni, 1st of September. That's the final report. So the final report has been out sort of a month and a half. Age 16, female, white, weight, never married, residence, place, Prosser Creek Reservoir. Okay, and then let me just bring something else up. And I think this has just been released by Adventures with Purpose. Our thoughts and prayers are with KIELY and her family. We trust today that a thorough investigation has been completed and we will stand by the decisions released in their findings. So that's quite interesting. I was actually going to touch on that, which is, shouldn't we be hearing from AWP? Julie, thanks very much for that. Thanks for your excellent, authentic, and perfect coverage of this case throughout, a shining light in a sea of sewage. Okay, thanks for that. So, yeah, I must say, I think this was important for them to say that. They don't actually overtly say we stand by the accident narrative, but they say we will stand by the decisions released in their findings, right? I don't know whether they said anything about Yolisa Fuentes, but at least this is something. I don't know if you guys know, but AWP, I don't know whether they appeared, but they were certainly brought up by a channel called Profiling Evil, where I think the creator there said that he'd spoken to them, and I kind of got the idea that he counseled them, and I think I'm just sharing what my assessment was from hearing it. It was basically, I think he said, your expertise is diving and you do a fantastic job at that. Leave investigation in a nice way, leave investigations to investigators, stay in your lane. And that's, I think, standard. And, you know, AWP did a fantastic job in this case. And I think it's the first time they've ever been involved in a high profile case to the extent that they have. And I'm sure they have learned, something about everything that has happened. And I'm sure also the true crime community has learned something about what has happened. I hope so. I guess we'll see, but kind of feels that way. Because AWP can have a really positive influence if they choose to. We've seen that they can have a huge influence, but they can choose to have a positive influence on investigations, and they keep talking about it's, it being positive, that they want to have a positive influence. So I think there was an aspect in this case that they had a very positive influence, a tremendously positive influence. But I think there's another aspect where that influence was not so positive. The whole suspicious thing, I don't know how helpful that was. That's my opinion. Okay. Okay, so let's see what else I wrote here. So I've got a criticism that's not so much directed at AWP, it's actually directed at quite a few other channels. And it's kind of like, where did your critical thinking go? Right? So just to be clear, um, I would say in the beginning, right in the beginning, I thought that this was um, it's a sort of 50-50. I thought it could be an accident or foul play. Then I sort of leaned a bit closer to an abduction for a while. This is before the vehicle was found. Then the Uber couple were found, and then the needle swung back quite a lot. And then I thought, wow, you know what? I think we need to think about it being an accident. And then after that, um, I actually went and studied the stats. I wanted to study the accident statistics, and I wanted to look at um, sort of abduction statistics and so on. And a lot of you guys found that really dull. Why are we looking at statistics? We looked at statistics again in the Yulisa Fuentes case. We saw that August is the month that you have the most accidents. Most of them happen at night. Most of them happen on a Saturday. Most of them happen quite late at night. Most of them are single vehicle crashes. I didn't really know that. Um, and the age range tends to be younger people, 15 to 25. That's kind of a critical age range. Um, and often it is associated with drunk driving and fatigue. So when AWP was searching, I don't know if you guys remember, law enforcement were actually looking for an abductor, and I was actually saying you shouldn't be. This was before it came out. And then the moment AWP found the vehicle, to me it was really clear this is an accident. And I said that at the time. I said there was a video, no foul play, no red flags. That's the same thing we did with the Yolisa Fuentes case, is we basically said, here's the vehicle, well, doesn't look like it's foul play, right? So is true crime going to learn from this? I hope so. I don't know if we'll see that. I actually kind of channeled, I actually challenged one or two channels, and I got called a misogynist with a small dick. So, as a result of saying, I don't think that that's appropriate, I'm now a misogynist. I didn't pursue Sammy Smith. I didn't pursue her friends one by one, and even other people. I didn't like go after people and accuse them of murder when I didn't have murder in any of my titles. And I hope that AWP are going to take that word off their video, where it says murder in all caps or accident question mark. I hope they're going to take the word away. Maybe they could say accident question mark. They could just do that. The same actually with Yulisa Fuentes, where they said abduction question mark, kidnapping question mark. I hope they're going to go back and change that. We'll see. Thanks for that, Sharon. So, and also thanks to SM Kovalinsky for keeping me abreast on certain things that are happening in real time. I wouldn't have known otherwise. Thanks very much for that. Okay, so what else do I want to say here? just in general, I have never seen an outside channel with several million subs come in right into the narrative, like literally right into the narrative, and change it. Like they literally came in and they were like a game changer. They found the vehicle, and that was, of course, for the better. And then only to steer it on another path, which I don't know if you could say that was for the better. The whole tow truck guy thing, was that for the better? Going after Jagger, was that for the better? Um, Thinking about, the timeline is now totally shifted, was that for the better? Um, anyway, the part that I found worrying wasn't so much what AWP did, because they are kind of new to this. What the part that kind of bothered me is true crime channels that are supposed to know their stuff, that are supposed to have been here before, seem to just like go belly up and just sort of had AWP on their shows, and then just they didn't seem to have any critical thinking. That just, oh, it's suspicious, okay, it's suspicious. They didn't seem to interrogate the story. They didn't seem to be trying to figure it out. It was like, oh, you saying it's foul play, it's foul play. There was a little bit of that from one channel that sort of spoke about what happens post mortem to bodies in water, and I think they also challenged tow truck guy. But for the most part, all of these other channels played second fiddle, and I feel like it's not just that. They discredited themselves doing that, but not only that, their own followers discredited themselves by not challenging those creators. Like, are you sure about this? What about this? What about that? And you saw that same sort of thing going on when the fire cam stuff came out. Oh, that's staged, that's fake, that's a hoax or something. That all of that is quite disappointing. So you must bear in mind the other part of it was, while they were pursuing the suspicious narrative, they were raking in subs. One channel, when this started, I think had about 50,000 subscribers, somewhere around there. It's now got about 85,000, so that's a growth of 35,000 subscribers. I think that channel did the best of all of them in terms of that, but pushed the foul play narrative very, very strongly. And if you're getting paid handsomely and your subscribers are loving it, then why would you go against that? But that's not true crime. True crime isn't telling people what they want to hear. It's being factual, right? Um, if you think about when the moment Yolisa Fuentes' vehicle was found, there was like zero suspicion of foul play. You needed the same thing with Kylie's vehicle. The moment her vehicle was found, there should have been zero suspicion of foul play, because bodies naturally float to the back. If someone's alive, they will naturally follow the air bubble. This is what lots of people said. Where it went, when it went there, it was all exactly what you'd expect. So why didn't anyone think about that? So what I think is going to be interesting is, are we going to see a continued insistence of foul play? Are we going to see people continuing to say, well, look at the toxicology, or we need more information, or I don't know, is that going to continue? I must say, I think I'm quite hopeful when I see that. We trust that it's a thorough investigation, and we stand by the decisions. That, they're not saying we don't stand by the decisions, or we don't trust the investigation. The other side is, in a way, the damage has already been done. Going on to all those channels and saying, I'm 90% certain, it's not 50-50. So in other words, if you decide to dictate a narrative and control a narrative, and then this is the outcome, do you then also dictate and control the narrative of the accident when this comes out? Or do you just control the narrative when it works for you? Do you know what I mean? So when you're getting the views, you're getting the subs, you're getting the super chats, and you controlling the narrative, that's great. But when it's not what I guess people want to hear, it's not going to bring in that much interest. It's just an accident. Are you going to control that narrative as well? Just wondering. Ferret says no matter how much profit, it was an accident. A lot of people continue to do videos saying why it can't be an accident. Yeah, I think so. I think so. So what did I write here? Let's just have a look. I wrote, from my perspective, covering this case, what I've seen is the true crime community almost to a man, and this is in terms of this case, discrediting itself. I've seen it happen. I've seen how it happens, and I must say I'm terrified by it. That you can go totally off track. So many people going totally off track, but in reality, and some of you aren't going to like me saying this, I think we saw precisely the same thing play out in Depp versus Heard, where social media also realized, let's be on that side of the narrative and we can make a lot of gold, right? Where social media decided the outcome before the time, right? Thought the court of opinion could trump the actual court. Well, it didn't. Well, it did and it didn't. 99% of social media sided with Johnny Depp, and the jury still found somewhat that Amber Heard was defamed as well. But the point is, we've seen the same salivating, suspicious, populist drama approach in Depp versus Heard in this case. Who benefits from that? Who benefits from that salivating? It's suspicious. It's could it be this person? That whole sensational thing. Who benefits from that? Is justice served from that? Is the victim's voice heard? Think about Kylie's friends. Were they treated well? Her mother actually complained about that at the funeral. She called social media a monster. So if you say who benefits from that, can I tell you who benefits? Liars benefit, manipulators benefit, people who twist the truth benefit, people who aren't telling the truth benefit, opportunists benefit. Can I tell you who doesn't benefit? The truth tellers, like Sammy Smith and Kylie's family. Maybe it's not all true, just as what Amber Heard said wasn't all true. You might say what Sammy Smith said wasn't all true, but it's sufficiently true. The basis of it was true. It's certainly more true than the false narrative so many wanted to believe and so many want to be told. And again, what's interesting is how much I've been attacked, right? I've been also trying to cover this case, but almost from the perspective of don't go that way. Don't, let's not entertain that. Someone was really mocking and undermining and attacking Sammy, and I asked her to stop. I don't often go into another channel and type in chat, but I thought it was justified. And my comment was deleted. It was all ignored. And then weeks later, she kind of offered a half-hearted apology while saying, these are actually some other red flags, and I think she's a shitty friend, right? And then I got attacked. I was called a misogynist with a small dick when I was actually trying to stand up for Sammy. So, is that fair? Is that fair? So I've been attacked for pointing out this sort of also playing both sides. You know, I kind of got the idea that at some point certain channels started realizing, you know what, I actually don't know if it is foul play. Like when Tow Truck Guy got, for example, when the fire cam came out, do you then admit that it's starting to look a certain way, or do you keep trying to play it both ways? Like, I don't really know what I think about the fire cam. And so, in a way, you're a bit of a two-faced channel, then, aren't you? I mean, aren't you? And naturally, when the official report comes out, just watch how quickly everyone just cashes their chips and move on, right? I think you need something more than that. Like, if it's genuine, I think you need to see a mea culpa, and you need to also see a genuine shift in direction. So if AWP, for instance, and I say this with kindness and with friendship and with in an encouraging way, when you're in another high-profile situation and there's a certain scenario that presents itself, this is valuable training to say, um, let's wait for the evidence, or let's examine the evidence, right? I'm certainly not someone who says wait until the official report comes out before you make up your mind. I'm definitely not one of those people. But if you can't get that assessment right, then maybe you should wait, right? If you can't make your analysis anchored in the evidence, then maybe you should wait. If you can, on the other hand, if you can assess things in an accurate way, then by all means do that in real time. But if you can't, and if you keep making mistakes, you should maybe wait until the official report comes out. I don't know, or do better. Pay more attention to what's going on. Also, pay attention to what other people are saying that is different to what you say. I've paid attention to the foul play narrative, but also saw why it doesn't work. The timeline doesn't work. I've just had a gut feeling that the suspects aren't suspicious. Jagger was never suspicious. He had an alibi all along. What's the motive in this case? I mean, that was never brought up anyway. So when you hold other channels accountable, you told and this is what happened. This is something I think is worth mentioning. There was a warning on another channel saying, if you criticize them, the world's going to come down on you, or that you're a misogynist. Was that fair? Because I was doing quite a bit of criticism, which I thought was justified. So was it right to then attack me? I don't know. One channel actually asked its members to sanction me. Don't go and watch his videos. Don't help the algorithm. Don't click like. Don't comment. Sanction him. Make sure that he try and hurt his income, and try and discourage him from making any more videos. Wow. So that's the reward for staying anchored in the evidence. That's the reward for that. We're going to sanction you and make sure you earn even. That channel made also a lot of subscribers, made a lot of money. Had every time she was in chat, would have 3,000-4,000 people in chat. I don't think I ever got over 200 or 300. But no, make that number even less. Sanction him even more. How dare somebody criticize me? So if you disagree and it turns out your reasoning corresponds to law enforcement, and bear in mind we're in the true crime world where we try to actually work with law enforcement. I do. We try and work with prosecutors. I do. We try and find justice at the end of the day, or I do. I'm not trying to bring about injustice. I'm trying to bring about justice. I'm trying to pursue the truth, not the truth. And so at the end of all that, you're still the ugly duckling with a small dick. Doesn't seem fair. Uh, doesn't seem fair. Is it fair? Let's look at some of your comments. Yeah, that is a bit of a crazy theory. That's so true. Why doesn't truth pay? Um, there's been a saying for so long, crime doesn't pay. Feels like it does. It feels like we live in a society now where certainly in social media, lying or distorting or twisting or sensationalizing or exaggerating pays. Why is that? Thanks a lot for that. Why is that? Isn't the truth worth anything? Like if you married somebody and you were worried about your relationship, wouldn't you like say to them, please, please just tell me the truth. Do you love me? Please tell me the truth. How do you really feel? Doesn't that mean something, the truth? And is it okay if they said something that you wanted to hear? Or if they exaggerated, or if they manipulated you? In real life, you really want the truth. So isn't true crime about real life? Or is true crime kind of a separate area where you can kind of just have fun? And I actually asked these questions while the KIELY Rodney case was going on. I said, in a poll, I said, is true crime entertainment? Is it a joke? Or is it serious? That all of that was happening, that narrative, those questions were coming up, those criticisms were coming up in the middle of this case. So think about this now. Like I said, I was called a misogynist, which is someone who hates women. I don't hate women. My very first case was taking on the voice of the victim, and nobody else was doing that. Her name was Reva Steenkamp. My first book was called Reva in Her Own Words. And everyone, the media, everyone was focused on Oscar. And I was like the only person saying, what about Reva, right? And that was my first step into true crime. And I've since then continued with that strategy and that position. And even it doesn't really matter what case it is. I'm always looking to find out what to put myself in the shoes of the victim, but not only the victim, the perpetrator as well. It's not choosing sides, it's just finding out what really happened. And there's so much side choosing in true crime, and it's not high school. It's not a popularity contest. Well, actually it is, but it shouldn't be. It should be looking for the truth, the unvarnished, cold, hard truth. So anyway, so if misogyny is a baseless, irrational hatred of someone, we've seen plenty of that in this case. We've seen plenty of baseless suspicion. We've seen one after another innocent partygoer set up and shot down. I was trying to defend them. Try and find a video where I was attacking a partygoer or a boyfriend or a whatever. Meanwhile, while I'm trying to defend them, you'd have hate channels making hay with 4,000 strong chats. Whenever they say, I think she's lying there, or what do you think about that? Do you believe her? And then you get a super chat for that, and you get encouraged to pursue a witch hunt. You encourage your flock to be hell bent on gathering their pitchforks. So I just want to share this comment from one of my patrons. Do I want to share it? Ron says, missing Michelle Reynolds. She abandoned her car and belongings. She's known with a mental condition and might be disoriented. Okay. We'll look into that. Thanks, Ron. Okay. So yeah, I just want to bring up this from a patron that brought this up. How do I do this? Is that going to bring it up? So she says, it's true, but that attention can also bring a downside and be a disruption to progress, right? So I think it's really important to ask the question, is your bringing your attention to a case in a certain way, is it actually disrupting an investigation? And I think one's got to be careful um, putting out a narrative that's contrary to law enforcement. I'm not saying law enforcement always know what they're talking about. Goodness knows they make mistakes. But law enforcement are often a lot closer to everything than we are. They know a lot of details that we don't know. So one's got to respect that intimacy with everything that's going on. And in the Adnan Syed case, you look at the victim's family and how they've responded to what's just happening. I have actually meant to cover that like now, maybe I'll do it tomorrow. How do the victim's family feel about what's just happened there? That should give you some kind of indication. That should be a clue as to something that's going on. Smoky Blue Days is that's something that annoys me in this case. These people act like they never went to a party in high school with underage drinking. Yeah. It's like also like I never did anything wrong. I've never driven drunk. Also total logic. Also like I'm going to put my head over my ears and I'm just going to say, but she was tied down in the trunk. How could she drive the car if she was in the trunk? And then say that over and over and over again, and I refuse to think about anything else. You know. Um, I think I'm about done. Okay, so you there may be some of you who are still wondering, what do you mean when you about being authentic? What's that all about? Like, and most authentic voice in true crime. That's very arrogant to say. Um, I'm trying to be authentic. Whether you say I'm not, maybe I'm not, but I'm trying to be a truth teller sincerely, and I'm prepared to not be the most popular, and I'm prepared to be criticized and sidelined and to some extent sanctioned and scoffed at and all that. But I think it's quite important to do. I think it's quite important to tell the truth in a situation where it feels like there's universal deceit and people are so easily caught up in that. I'm not easily caught up in that. You may have noticed i didn't I didn't interview AWP. I also didn't ask them and they said no. I just never even asked them. I thought I don't want to be beholden to them. I don't want to interview them and then feel like wow, that was such a big benefit to me. I feel now I'm kind of biased. I just wanted to stay independent, right? So I was the one channel. I don't know how many other channels took that decision that I'm not going to interview them. If they had said, at some point, it is actually starting to look like an accident. And if they had reached out to me, then I may have done it. But I just felt like I don't really want to have that conversation. I'm not going to be blowing smoke up anyone's ass, and I don't need smoke blown up my ass. So that's really what it's about. So this may seem very like neither here nor there. Oh, okay, a 16-year-old, that's what happened to her, and it's not really a big deal. We thought it was foul play. It turned out to be an accident. No big deal. Let's move on. And I want to stop you there if that's what you're saying. I want to stop you there and say, actually, there are consequences and serious consequences to exactly what we're talking about here. In other words, I'm saying there's serious consequences to pushing a narrative that's not true. Whether you know it's not true or not, there's serious consequences to pushing a narrative that's not true, right? And now I'm going to wade into an area that some of you are going to appreciate, and some of you are going to say, that's it, I'm out of here. I want nothing to do with you. It's one of those areas that you shouldn't really go into if you're dealing with American true crime. But I'm going to go into that area, right? I'm going to go into that area. And it's to do with this. We've just seen what's happened with Alex Jones. We've just seen him undermining mass shootings, right? And what I'm trying to say here is that fake news literally kills people, right? And now I'm going to give you an example of exactly what I'm talking about. During the pandemic, you had two groups. You basically had, and I don't live in America. I don't vote for anybody because I'm not even in America. But it's quite plain to see from this side of the pond that you had one group that approached the virus in a certain way, and you had another group that approached the virus in another way, right? And I'm not even going to say the names of them because that's also triggering. So I just won't even say that. But what I will say is one group wanted to get vaccinated and wanted to wear masks and wanted to be careful and was concerned about what was going on. And another group didn't. Another group didn't want to get vaccinated. Another group didn't want to wear masks. Another group said that it was just like the flu, and so on and so on. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? They've now done a study. I'll put a link to that in a moment in the chat. They did a study, and this is what I'm trying to say by fake news literally kills people. They did a study, and what they found is the one group that believed a certain set of information, less people died because of this virus than the other group who believed other things, right? Do you know how many people died during this virus in America? 1 million people, over 1 million people. And so do you know how many lives could have been saved by telling the effing truth, right? Tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, you could even argue maybe 1 million people could have been saved. 1 million people could have been saved by telling the fucking truth, right? Is it so hard to tell the fucking truth? But because people didn't tell the fucking truth, eventually about 1 million people died, right? So fake news literally kills people. 10% more people died in this group that weren't getting the right information simply because of that. Simply because they were in a group that all felt kumbaya, masks mean nothing and all this kind of thing. So is there a reason, like, we're just speculating and what's it? It's my opinion. My opinion is just as good. We're allowed to share our opinion. Yeah, in true crime, it's a little bit different. In true crime, telling people what they want to hear, just like in certain other things, telling people what they want to hear can actually cost people's lives. And that whole thing of teaching people not to think critically, teaching people, I'm going to tell you what you want to hear, and let's all tell ourselves what we want to hear and not think critically, gets ourselves into a catastrophe. And people can actually die from that. People can die from not realizing, wow, in this situation, I actually need to wake up. And KIELY herself could have benefited from that. If KIELY herself had kind of said, I need to be a bit careful here. And I don't want to blame her. Like, a lot of people have made those mistakes, and I shouldn't really be here myself. I made really terrible mistakes and judgments when I was a young guy and I was driving and all sorts of things. I didn't really drive drunk much, but I took some risks driving, right? And there's nothing wrong with thinking a bit more critically about our world and about what we're doing, instead of, because there's a lot of recklessness going on. And what we found in the stats is that more people are dying than ever in car accidents because they're reckless. And you know where that recklessness comes from? You know where that recklessness starts? With our freaking thinking. We are reckless in our thinking. We're not careful in our thinking. We're not critical in our thinking. Where do you think it starts? On YouTube, here, right? And I'm preaching to the converted, like all of you guys. Well, I think most of you guys know what I'm talking about. It's the thousands out there who don't want to be on this channel, who want to be on the channel that's telling them what they want to hear, that need to hear this message. Of course, they're not going to. And like I say, of that group that I mentioned, the group that vaccinated and all that, their lives were saved in a much higher proportion than the other group. But more people, or I don't know if it's more people, but a lot of people wanted to be part of another group. They wanted to be told there's nothing to worry about with this virus. There's nothing to, masks don't work. Yes, I want to hear that because I don't want to wear a mask. It's just like the flu, music to my ears. I don't have to worry about this until you get it, and then you wish you didn't have it. And if you're not lucky, you die. If you're not lucky, you die. So if you think, thinking for yourself is so hard. So I'm going to put a link. It's a fantastic article. And I purposefully didn't mention any political parties because you'll really take that the wrong way. But the important stat is right at the end, where they say, between March 2020 and March 2021, excess death rates for one group in Ohio and Florida were 1.6% higher than for the other group. But from April 2021 to December 2021, after vaccines became widely available, the gap widened to 10%. The study found the largest gaps in excess death rates between one group and the other came in Ohio and Florida, with low vaccination rates. So literally what is going on is those who were told what they wanted to hear died. 10% more died because they were just being told what they wanted to hear. And those in the other group, more of them didn't die. So do you see what I'm saying? Someone says, don't trigger me. Do you see what I'm saying? Fake news literally kills people. So there's literally a responsibility to tell the truth. I agree with that. Statistics are fascinating. Thanks for that. So if you're interested in what I've just said, check out that link that I've just put there. As you will notice, I didn't really go into any of the political stuff, but it's still worth checking that out. Okay, so that is it from my side. Um, I hope you found this interesting. We will continue to look at what's going on. I must also say, I put up a post. I don't know if I can find it now, but I put up a post about AWP, something that Doug said and something that Nick said. And I felt like I don't think YouTube's ready to hear this. It was just really a simple analysis, really. And I just thought, I still discussed this with some patrons. It was really just very basic analysis. And I just felt like I don't feel like the community is ready to hear this. And so what I did then was I sort of took pieces of that out, small little pieces of it out, and I broke those pieces into even smaller pieces, and then I put little pieces into the narrative, and people were obviously very critical and upset, and there was a lot of pushback. But I sort of feel like now is maybe a good time to deal with that aspect. It was statements that were made that I just disagreed with. This is long before now. This was way, way, way back. But I just felt the community is not really in the right place to think about this, to talk about this. And I'm going to look at some of the comments to this, and if it remains the dogmatic, if it remains dogmatic and sort of anal, then I will just wait longer. I'll just keep putting it on the back burner. So I do plan on doing Adnan Syed next, and then maybe so Friday, and then maybe over the weekend I'll finally unveil that analysis that I've been meaning to do. All of it, all that it is it basically shows an error of thinking, where you can clearly see it's an error of thinking. It's not being nasty. It's not being um, unfairly critical. It's being reasonably analytical and just saying, guys, this is an error of thinking. Here's one, and here's another one, and this is how you got to where you got. But I've got to say, at the same time, one of the lessons I feel like I've learned from this case is, does it really matter trying to tell people trying to reason with facts, when beliefs and opinions and biases and whatever trumps that? Does it really matter? And I think the answer to that is, it matters to you guys, it matters to my community, it matters to us. And it's sort of, I don't like it, and I'm sure you don't like it, but it doesn't really matter so much if it doesn't matter to others. Let's deal with our circle of influence. Let's deal with our community. Let's deal with hashtag Peachtree. What is it? Team Peachtree, right? You guys agree? It doesn't really matter if other people are going whatever route that they're going. Let's make sure that we are finding our way to the light. Let's make sure that we are being nourished by the sunshine and not by the darkness. Let's make sure that we are growing in the right way, that we can produce good fruit. And let's be a affirming community for one another. We can be aware of what these other communities are doing, and we can um, do a little bit of finger wagging and do a little bit of shrugging, but let's also stay in our lane, and let's focus on growing towards the light. Hashtag Team Peachtree, right? Because going into that negative space where it doesn't matter what you argue or what you say, because people don't actually care about the facts. They care about being on that side of the narrative. So don't waste your time. I do think every now and then you've got to address certain things and hold certain things accountable. Otherwise, it becomes Alex Jones. But otherwise, I think you've got to also work on your own growth and your own health, right? So that's it. Alana says, I love your channel. I'm vaxxed, but now I'm having problems. Oh, I'm blaming the vax. Okay. Sorry to hear that. Stephanie was actually just ill with the virus. Can you believe it? Stephanie says, I strive to be a TCRS peach. So I can't wait to actually show you the peaches. They're supposed to be like a gold color. Hopefully I'll be able to do that. But we've got to be patient. It takes a while to produce good fruit, good peaches. So to my peach tree community, all the peaches out there, thanks for being here. I must say thanks for your support during what was quite a difficult case. It wasn't difficult in terms of its own merits. It was difficult because of the community and the context in which we were trying to have our voice. And we were kind of pushed away, pushed down, and all that. And I must say, what was so weird was I made a video where I said sorry, and I suddenly felt so warm, and it felt just such a weird feeling. It was like suddenly I'm getting all of this positive reinforcement. I quite liked it, and of course it was based on the ruse of that sort of apology. But anyway, that's how it goes. Okay. I just want to check to see if there's any more in my email inbox. And then I'm going to bid you guys adieu. Let's have a look. There might be something here. Let's have a look. Okay, looks like there is something here. I'm told that someone is referring to something in the autopsy report as the descendant instead of the decedent. Anyway, so here's a little another snippet from the autopsy, and this is the last thing I'm going to show you guys. So it says here, remains identified by pending forensic pathologist report. Marks, scars, tattoos, none observed. So there were no scars, right? There was no injury. Next of kin, there you go. But that's also important to address. No scars, no marks. And you would imagine that if she was tied, if there were ligatures and she was tied to the trunk the way that a lot of people were saying, there would be marks. There could possibly even be scars. If there was some kind of foul play, you would imagine ligatures here as well, and there weren't. So, so that's it. I have to say, just in a very basic way, that what happened to that little 16-year-old is very sad. I mean, it's the same thing that happened in a different setting and circumstance to Gabby Petito, but basically just someone who had their whole life ahead of them, and then it's gone, and it didn't have to be. Especially in Gabby Petito's case, I mean, her life was stolen from her. Why? But also in KIELY Rodni's case, her life was lost. And I don't think it was anyone's fault. I don't think it was her fault. I don't think it was anyone else's fault. it's not like it wasn't anyone's fault, but it also wasn't anyone's fault. You do wish that Kylie had, I don't know, someone with her in the vehicle for starters. You wish that Sammy had um, maybe driven with her, but Sammy could also have died then. Um, you wish, anyway, you basically just wish that this didn't happen, but it did happen. So what do you do with that? Now, can I just share this last thing with you guys? I'm going to stop at 2 hours 30. We're at 2:24 now. Just want to share a last thing with you guys. You know that on Sunday, it's literally, is it 4 days ago? 4 or 5 days ago, on Sunday, I had a near-death experience. And the weird thing after that was it was almost like, look, it was such a visceral experience that I had nightmares afterwards. I dreamt that my father died. I just, you know, I even had PTSD. I was visiting someone and a car came out of a T junction. The light shone on me and I actually jumped. So it definitely affected me, that moment. But the other side of it was I started having this weird feeling of, yes, but you didn't die. And so each thing you're experiencing now is something that you're getting to experience because you're still alive. You're getting to eat this meal. I also had this weird feeling of, because I'm still alive, I'm now eating a chicken, and well, that chicken now had to sacrifice its life for me. Because I'm still alive, I'm eating this steak or whatever. Something had to give up its life because I'm alive. The fact that you're alive is a privilege, and every moment you're getting to enjoy, and maybe you're not even enjoying it, but you should be. You're getting to experience lots of little things. Um, you know, I don't know. I don't know how to say it. Every little thing is a precious moment. Putting on your shoes, opening the curtains, seeing the nuclear fire of the sun. One day it's going to go out in many, many, millions of years, but being able to see it, having that experience of life, it means something. Kylie's lost her life, but we haven't. Gabby Petito lost her life, but we haven't. We see the fragility of life with them, but we've still got our lives. What are we going to do with that? Well, we've got to be hashtag Team Peachtree. We've got to grow, not just exist and look around and criticize and complain and analyze. Analyze is literally breaking something down. Not just that, but also create, build, grow. Um, you know what I mean? There must also be a positive, life-giving force that comes out of our knowledge of the darkness and the shadow and the brokenness. Something good must also come out of the bad. And I want to encourage you guys to find that, to feel that, right? Terry, we are going to debrief you still. So, yeah, we'll try and do that this weekend. Okay, final comments. Truckee is a beautiful town with really nice people, from LC Fairbanks. It does look beautiful. You guys aren't going to believe it, but I actually went to a travel agent like in the past week to go to California. I was thinking of going to California this November, literally. And then they said the queue for visas in my country is 6 to 8 months. So there goes that idea. But I was literally thinking, because I've been in California by following this case, it just seems so beautiful. And I know so many friends in California. I thought, well, I feel like going to California. well, it's not meant to be just yet. So thanks, Terry. You've been a great ambassador for your state. And it's a beautiful, it is a beautiful landscape. Maybe I'll ski there sometime. Um, get your visa anyway. Yeah, I believe the visa is valid for 10 years. So, once you've got it, you can use it. Okay, 1 minute to go. I just want to thank the mods that are here. I want to thank, and the members. I want to thank Stephanie for being here. Sharon, Terry Dean, the members, a lot of the subs, Kitty Witty, SW Firefly, Atharia, Mika Kaplan, Marlene Stewart, all you guys, Pooh's Blustery Day, Julie W. Thanks a lot for all your comments. Alina, Karina. Karina, we must go and sleep. It's 3:30 in the morning. Sharon as well. Thanks for being here. So, guys, remember hashtag Team Peachtree. Let's think about producing good fruit. Let's think about that. And I want my channel to not just be true crime or the war for Ukraine, but I want to start touching on affirmative topics, uh, books that you can read that are going to touch you, and ideas that are going to move you into a rich experience of life and being alive. Right? Isn't that something worth pursuing? In the face of death, there's life. In the face of life, there's death, but there's always the other side. With true crime, we're aware of darkness and evil and corruption, but there's also life. There's also truth. There's also beauty and magic in the world. We must remember that. Wow, Stephanie says, I got Elvis today. That's awesome. Okay, I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so guys, enjoy the fall where you are. I'll be enjoying the spring and the warmer weather. I hope you're going to be able to sleep, Karina. Terry says, much love, light, and self exploration to all of you. We can be an intelligent light in the genre and the world. That's what we want to do, is shine a light and be a light, and produce good fruit. Thanks, guys. Take care. See you guys next time. Timmy, I think it's time for bed, hey?